Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. We've got a couple of interesting ones to talk about tonight, starting with this custom shop Koa Esquire, master built by Carlos Lopez. I don't care who you are, this is a classy guitar. It gives me a real cowboy vibes, but yet it's ultra fancy at the same time. So let's go ahead and dissect this. So from far away, you might see it's some sort of a bound Telecaster, which is a bit unusual, and we've got some interesting wood grain and flame patterns going on here with gold hardware. However, if we really zoom in here on the binding, that's not just normal binding, it's multi-layered with a herringbone layer inside of a solid white stripe. If you're not familiar with herringbone, they call it that because it looks like the bones of a fish. So besides Telly's not normally having binding, that's something else that just makes it stand out and look even fancier. Since we've got this whole dark tobacco sunburst finish, it kind of reminds me of like a rope or something, so it ties in with that whole cowboy theme that I was talking about earlier. And speaking of that, look at all the engravings that they have on the bridge pickup cover right here. Those things always just look so fancy, so having it gold plated and engraved with all that stuff, yeah, that just takes it over the top. But they went as far as doing our control plate right here as well. Heck, I'm surprised the knobs were even spared from being engraved with something. But then, if you take that cover off, it has even more engravings under there, so it can be fancy either way. No cover or yes cover. But alright, now let's talk about the top wood here. This is Koa. So Koa can look like this, or it can look like this, it can have some figuring. It really just depends on the piece of wood that you've got. But this is a particularly nice flamed Koa top. Generally, you see Koa get used a lot more often within the acoustic guitar world, but that doesn't mean you can't use it on electric guitars. Pairing that with this finish and everything else, that was a very nice touch. So that about covers it for the top of the body. Now let's move on to the neck. The block inlays with ebony fretboard is not an option you see very often on a Telecaster. In fact, these big full block inlays, I don't think I've ever seen them on a Telecaster. It looks kind of nice. I'm kind of surprised not to see any type of binding on it. However, generally bound Fender necks just look a little bit weird to me anyway. We just saw one of those recently on the Fender Jaguar 60th anniversary episode. But then zooming in on the headstock, it appears we have pearl tips with a black face of the headstock with a single Fender logo. Having the blacked out headstock really matches this finish. It's like you only have the burst right here, and then everything else should be black, including the guitar that's on the side. This one was offered by an individual seller in Chicago, Illinois, and he was asking $10,500 for it, and it has since sold, and had many of offers. However, his listing only had a grand total of like 5 photos, one of them being a dealer stock photo, probably from like their Instagram page. So I wanted to see the back of this thing. So I decided to track one of these things down, and I found one for sale by Chicago Music Exchange that looks fairly similar. However, if you look at the headstock, this one just says Fender, and it's the same one I showed you just a minute ago. But the one in this photo looks like it says something a little bit more underneath it, like maybe Fender Esquire or something. So perhaps there were a few of these that looked very similar. But these photos, yeah, pretty much all the same stuff here. Let's get to the back. Okay. So I probably wouldn't actually like this Telecaster that much because it has the big modernized comfort cut. I like my Telly's blocky, but that's just me. Some guys would definitely dig that comfort cut. But then we went for like a full-on burst back here, which I kind of questioned that decision because the whole thing that made this cool is it kind of reminds me of 34 burst, a finish that Gibson used in 1934. Just a small little splat of burst, and then everything else was just kind of dark. I feel like this finish needs to be a bit darker. However, to be fair, this does just have a full-on burst, but Koa is kind of a darker wood. So when you swap over to the back of the body, being ash in this case, that's a lighter colored wood, so that makes up for the difference. But hey, it looks like they even went crazy on our neck plate on this one. And then get this. Not true to Fender fashion, they have a mahogany neck. Now Fender occasionally uses mahogany necks, but generally you find maple with these guys. So seeing that was pretty interesting, and of course you have your Fender Custom Shop logo back here. And it looks like just a standard Fender case for this one. But here we can see the travel card, and it'll tell us all the specs if you're interested in learning a little bit more about this one. Esquires are pretty cool, but I almost feel they could have gotten away with just having a single neck pickup up here. Don't do the pick guard that you normally have, just put the telly pickup right there. That would have added a little bit more fancy blinginess to this one. But you're probably wondering, what is the story behind this one? Well, the master builder Carlos Lopez has a friend named Mark Dupp. So he just gave him some telly hardware and said, do whatever inspires you. So he did this, and then from there, Carlos got it gold plated and then realized what he needed to do. So yeah, nice build, Carlos. Next up, let's take a look at another Koa top, but this time within the Gibson territory of things. This is a 1956 Les Paul reissue, which means we're going to have an ABR1 bridge, a stop bar tailpiece, and 2 P90 pickups, but with a Koa top. Now this Koa top is quite fascinating. I know we just talked about some Koa top Les Paul customs that a couple of dealers have been custom ordering for themselves, but this one's so exotic. Still a 2-piece top, it's got random flame figurines, it's got a whole bunch of wood grain going up and down. It's quite the sight to see. And the cream plastics really bring out the brightness of the wood, even though it's traditionally a little bit darker in color. But what makes this one even more interesting to me is the fact that it's actually part of the 60th anniversary year of this particular guitar, which should make it a 2016 if I'm doing my math correctly. So it's weird custom orders like these that I think could be collectible in the future, because some guy in the year 2060 is going to be like, yeah, I would like a 60th anniversary guitar in my collection. What? A custom ordered Koa top? That makes no sense, but I love it. I want it. Because generally a 56 reissue would have a gold finish over top of it, and it would be a maple top. So this one just throws the whole rule book out of the window. It's got a natural finish with a Koa top. But hey, that's all right. It almost looks like a root beer finish here. But then this photo kind of starts to remind me of like a really dark zebra wood top. That's a pretty cool 56 Les Paul reissue. If I had the opportunity to document that, I probably would. Now, as far as everything else, I mean, just seems pretty much about the same. But wait, what? Hold the phone? No. No. Yeah, I remember why I saved this in my watch list now. Scratch everything I just said. This says 1960 to 2020. So you mean to tell me that this is technically an RO, a 1960 reissue? Now it's supposed to be a burst color, still with a 2-piece maple top, but it's supposed to have humbuckers. What? Why? I've got to see the serial number now. There's no way they did that. That's way too customized. Maybe somebody just put that on there? Nope. There it is. You got your RO serial number on there. What a freak of a guitar. I know there's been a few limited edition like 59 reissues that have P90 pickups, so the fact that this one just has nothing to do with the 1960 reissue and it was still billed as an RO just makes me laugh. I like it. But how much was this weird beast? Whoa! It's in Australia and they want $15,000. It's nice, however, I don't know if it's quite that nice. I mean, when it comes to collectible guitars, sometimes values can be insane. But generally speaking, a 1960 reissue, you're around $5,000. So custom order one with a Koa top, P90 pickups, the custom finish, you're probably looking at what, maybe a $2,000-$3,000 premium. So for us American buyers, it would make more sense just to custom order your own. Now, unfortunately, you won't be able to get the whole reissue factor, and that's what makes this one kind of secure and hold some value for in the future. But you could get something very similar, probably for around $8,500 would be my guess. So do you need to pay double to have the anniversary one? I guess that's up to you. But you have to remember, it's expensive to get stuff to Australia, around $500 shipping, and then you have import duties and taxes. I think they're generally around 15% there. Kind of depends where you live. So if you paid $8,000, you'd have another like $1,200 to $1,400 tax on top of that. So there you can kind of see why this guy's asking so much. It doesn't seem like he wants to sell it either, but if the right offer came along, he would do it. So even if this price seems crazy to you, there is some logic behind it. But if nothing else, thank you for sharing this guitar with us. That is a freak of a 1960 reissue. Now, unfortunately, I do not have any more Koa top guitars to share with you, but I wanted to talk about this one. We've actually seen this one before in the Mod Collection Demo Shop update. This one was originally from the demo shop itself, and it was one of those ones I was like, hey, if you bought this thing, I would love to see some photos because, you know, they called it Ebony Mist. They had some weird back plates on it. It kind of looked like a black guitar, but it was a decent price, $3,600 for being a custom finish. It had some finish checking and some more extreme finish checking over here, but didn't really look all that special. But my friends, take a look at these actual photos. This really reminds me of Fender's Texas T finish. It's very similar to that. It looks a little bit better in these more amateur photos than it did in the actual stock photography that Gibson had. However, this appears to have been a top refin only, which is kind of a letdown because that would have looked really cool if the whole guitar had that whole phenomenon going on, because Texas T is a fantastic finish. But it looks like this one has seen some use, so it's definitely played a little bit. But yeah, it really comes to life in the sunlight like that. And Leon here is offering it for $3,900, which he's basically just trying to break even at this point. And then I've got one more for you guys tonight. Remember this thing? This poor Firebird. I want to buy it just to put it out of its misery because it keeps getting flipped. We talked about this, I don't know, like 2-3 months ago, and I said, hey, it's actually a pretty cool 1976 Firebird, but somebody gave it a custom paint job. Yeah, it doesn't look the best on the back. And when you really get up close onto the paint, it doesn't look as good as it does far away, but it's a really interesting design. And somebody's added the middle pickup on it too. It's just quite the exotic Firebird, but it keeps showing up, which makes me think it probably doesn't play that good if it just keeps getting bought to be sold. Now, sometimes a guitar will go to dealer to dealer to dealer to dealer to dealer to someone else and then trade it back in, and it just naturally happens. But this one, I think I initially saw it on eBay, and then it came to Reverb, and then I saw it back on eBay again at like an open auction, and I think the last time it sold was for like around $2,000, somewhere around there. I don't fully remember. But then it came here to Reverb again for around $3,000, and it sold. So this is the traveling pants sisterhood type guitar thing here. But it last sold about 2 months ago, so we'll have to see if it ever shows up again. Alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.